All right, so sorry guys, let's think back to the question, what makes a poem a poem? While there are several elements of poetry, not all poems are written using the same elements. Some poems may rhyme, while others may not. Some have a predictable rhythm, and some do not. Some tell a story, some simply describe. There are several things that we can ask ourselves or think about when determining if a piece of literature can be considered a poem. First, we can ask, how is the poem structured? Are the lines the same lengths or different lengths? Are the lines broken into stanzas? Next, you can think about how the poem sounds. Are there rhyming words or words that are repeated? What elements add rhythm or beat to the poem? Finally, you can scan the poem for figurative language. What comparisons do you notice? What vivid details stand out? There are more forms of figurative language than just simile and metaphors. There's alliteration, personification, hyperbole, onomatopoeia is even an example. The list goes on and on. Let's take a look at a poem titled, I Hold the World. I'm going to model how to determine whether or not it is poetry or prose, and you are going to help. I hold the world and watch it turn between my curious hands. A spinning mix of blues and greens, a swirling blur of lands. I touch it lightly and it slows. I feel its bumps and lines, of mountains tall and valleys deep, and continents defined. I marvel at the places that I hope to see one day, and wonder at the faces I might meet along the way. I'll shake the hands of people, all shades of browns and tans, of desert sands and darkest soils, all colors of the lands. Folks with eyes of browns and greens and blues of seas and skies. I wonder if they think like me, of hows and wheres and whys. I long to know their stories of the past and present too. I long to walk their streets and paths, a mile inside their shoes. Pause the video now and jot down in your digital journal any rhyming pairs that you notice. What other elements of poetry do you notice? Jot those down too. Pause the video now and join us back here when you are finished. Starting off, I can tell that I Hold the World is a poem just by looking at it. I see that instead of paragraphs, it's arranged in lines and stanzas. All right, my stanzas look like little mini paragraphs. My lines are numbered. I have line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, line 6, line 7, and so on and so forth. All right, reading the first stanza, I notice that there is an end rhyme, and this rhyme scheme stays the same throughout the poem. Hands, lands, lines, defined, and it's the end word in lines, the second and fourth lines of each stanza, and each stanza is broken into 4 lines. I can also notice a regular rhythm to the language. I can feel and hear how syllables alternate between stressed and unstressed, which creates a natural rhythm. For example, if you just clap out as you read, you can count the number of syllables in each line, and it follows a pattern. It follows an actual 8-6-8-6-8-6 pattern, meaning the first line has 8 syllables, next has 6. All right, I hold the world and watch it turn. That's 8. Between my curious hands. That's 6. A spinning mix of blues and greens. That's 8. A swirling blur of lands. That's 6. All right, and it follows the same pattern throughout the poem. The speaker calls the world a spinning mix of blues and greens, a swirling blur of lands. As I read that, I can visualize, the author paints a picture of holding a spinning globe in my hands. The steady rhythm and the regular rhyme of this poem make it easy to read. I know that the last words in the second and fourth lines of each stanza are going to rhyme. All right? how these elements of poetry are mixed within this poem helps me understand why I know this poem is a poem. If I can notice those elements of poetry and pick them out, if they're there, I know it's a poem. All right, so at this moment, we're going to pause and reflect. In today's Padlet discussion, Exit Ticket, it's both, you're going to answer this question. In your own words, what makes a poem a poem? After answering, I want you to comment on at least 2 other peers' answers in a positive and relevant manner. Remember, relevant just means it needs to be on topic to what the person, the other student, is writing. So if they're talking about what makes a poem, I don't want you to comment cool. I don't want you to comment what you had last Taco Tuesday. I want you to talk about what they wrote. All right. I can't wait to read what you guys wrote.